Imagine knowing you have only 24 hours left to live. How would you spend them? 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ faced his final day on earth. But instead of running, he walked willingly toward the cross. What happened in those last 24 hours changed human history forever. This is the timeline of the greatest sacrifice ever made. Thursday evening, Jesus gathered with his 12 disciples in an upper room for the Passover meal. This would be their last dinner together. As they ate, Jesus did something extraordinary. He took bread, broke it, and said, "This is my body, given for you." Then he took the cup of wine and said, "This is my blood of the new covenant, poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." He was preparing them for what was coming. That night, Jesus established what we now call communion, a reminder of the sacrifice he was about to make. After dinner, Jesus and his disciples walked to the Garden of Gethsemane. While the others slept, Jesus prayed. He knew what was coming: the betrayal, the beating, the crucifixion. The weight of humanity's sin was about to fall on him. In anguish, he prayed, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." His sweat became like drops of blood. This wasn't a brave hero marching fearlessly to death. This was a man in agony, choosing obedience over escape. 3 times he prayed the same prayer, and 3 times he surrendered to God's will. Suddenly, torches appeared through the trees. A crowd armed with swords and clubs approached. Leading them was Judas, one of Jesus' own disciples. He walked up to Jesus and kissed him on the cheek, the prearranged signal to identify Jesus to the arresting soldiers. "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" Jesus asked. Peter tried to defend Jesus with a sword, but Jesus stopped him. "Put your sword away. Don't you realize I could call 12 legions of angels to rescue me? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled?" Jesus was arrested and led away. All his disciples fled into the night. For the next several hours, Jesus was subjected to a series of illegal trials. First before Annas, then the high priest Caiaphas, then the Jewish council called the Sanhedrin. They questioned him, mocked him, and accused him of blasphemy. When asked, "Are you the Christ, the Son of God?" Jesus answered, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One." They declared him worthy of death, but they couldn't execute him. Only the Romans had that authority. So they sent him to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate found no fault in Jesus. He even sent him to Herod, hoping to avoid responsibility. But the religious leaders stirred up the crowd. "Crucify him! Crucify him!" they shouted. Pilate had Jesus scourged, a brutal Roman punishment where victims were whipped with a flagrum, a whip embedded with pieces of bone and metal. The flogging alone killed many men. Jesus' back was torn to shreds. Then soldiers mocked him, pressing a crown of thorns into his skull, draping a purple robe on his bleeding shoulders, and kneeling before him in fake worship, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews," while they beat him. At 9 in the morning, Jesus was forced to carry his own cross through the streets of Jerusalem. After the beating he'd endured, he could barely walk. He collapsed under the weight. The soldiers grabbed a man from the crowd named Simon of Cyrene and forced him to carry the cross the rest of the way. Women in the crowd wept as Jesus passed. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves." Even in his agony, he was thinking of others. They arrived at Golgotha, the place of the skull. There, soldiers nailed Jesus to the cross, spikes driven through his wrists and feet. The cross was lifted and dropped into place. The pain was unimaginable. Yet Jesus' first words were, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." 2 criminals were crucified beside him. One mocked Jesus. The other said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "Today you will be with me in paradise." For 6 hours Jesus hung on that cross. At noon, darkness covered the land for 3 hours. At 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out, "It is finished." He had completed his mission. Then he said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And he breathed his last. In just 24 hours, the Son of God experienced betrayal, abandonment, torture, and death. But here's what we must never forget. He chose it. Every step, every blow, every nail. He could have stopped it, but he didn't, because he loved you. The cross wasn't the end. 3 days later, the tomb was empty. Death couldn't hold him. And because he rose, everyone who believes in him can have eternal life. These weren't just the last 24 hours of Jesus' life. They were the hours that purchased your salvation. That's how much you're worth to God.